Taylor Swift bad at anything?
We're just kind of lame.
Well, she's definitely not bad at winning legal battles. In fact, she's quite good at it.
Despite her being uber famous and the subject of several legal squabbles, she's never actually lost one. In fact, the only case involving her that actually went to trial, she won.
The trial was back in 2017 and involved her allegations that this radio DJ, David Mueller, groped her while he stood next to her for a meet and greet photo.
Taylor reported the incident to her management and the news eventually became public.
Mueller denied that he assaulted her and said that he lost his job over her fake claims. So he sued Taylor for defamation, seeking $3 million.
Taylor then countersued for sexual assault, seeking a single dollar. The single dollar was a symbolic gesture showing that she didn't actually want his money, but just wanted her version of the story to be proven true.
At trial, Taylor testified for around an hour, and numerous sources say she totally nailed it.
For example, at one point, Mueller's attorney brought up how Taylor's bodyguard was nearby during the alleged groping, but didn't do anything about it. When he asked her if she was critical of her bodyguard for failing to protect her from being groped, she responded, "I'm critical of your client sticking his hand under my skirt and grabbing my ass."
She also responded to Mueller's description of her being cold by saying, "I have an uncanny ability to elicit new criticism."
One key piece of evidence was the actual photo taken during the moment of the alleged assault. In it, Mueller is standing directly beside Taylor with his hand located directly behind her
Mueller's
butt.
attorney tried to argue that this photo didn't actually show anything inappropriate by asking things like, why didn't the front of her skirt appear to be lifted? Her response? Because my ass is located on the back of my body.
He tried asking a ton of different questions about this, but Taylor wasn't having it. Gabe, this is a photo of him with his hand up my skirt with his hand on my ass. First name, Spicy.
So ultimately, the jury sided with her and she won. The ride operator scares the absolute crap out of people.
Hold on, there's something wrong with the gate. I gotta fix it. Hold on. Let me push this button real quick. Shoot, that was the wrong one. Got him. It's showing red malfunction on the brakes. Hold on. I gotta get it.
But are these pranks actually illegal?
Do you always have to be such a buzzkill?
I'm a lawyer, so yes. Anyway, scaring people can actually be a civil offense called the intentional infliction of emotional distress. Ah!
But it requires much more than whatever that was. Specifically, there needs to be extreme or outrageous conduct that actually causes severe emotional distress. The offense was first recognized in the 1800s when some guy played a practical joke on a woman by pretending that her husband had been seriously injured. The court said, first of all, that's not funny, and second of all, that's illegal.
Now, when it comes to the ride operator here, the answer to whether his conduct was illegal or not is, it depends.
That's an annoying answer, but here's why. It's typically up to a jury to decide whether someone's conduct was outrageous or extreme.
Similarly, it's up to a jury to decide whether someone's emotional distress was severe.
And it's totally situation dependent. We don't see the end result of this prank in any of the videos, so we don't know.
But suppose some high school guy and his date go on this ride. And he gets so scared by the prank that the crap is literally scared out of him.
And that's my cue.
It's a total disaster, like someone dropped a gallon of chocolate milk off the side of a bridge. The date runs off and probably tells everybody at school about Biohazard Boy. As a result, he develops serious social anxiety requiring extensive therapy.
A jury would likely find that to be severe emotional distress, just like me having to listen to that.
Halloween, let's talk about the most f***ed up haunted house in America. Known for straight up torturing its victims, customers.
We're talking, of course, about McKamey Manor, where people have reportedly been zip-tied, forced underwater, slapped, made to eat tons of bugs, and other almost unbelievable stuff. It's so extreme that you apparently have to do all of this just to get on the supposedly 20,000 person waitlist.
But it's this waiver requirement that's gotten a lot of attention. Is this waiver actually legal? Can you consent to being tortured? I guess that's kind of what marriage is.
We can obviously legally consent to all kinds of dangerous things, but not all waivers are valid. For a waiver to be valid, courts will look at these three things.
First, the bargaining power. This is basically asking if the party who created the waiver has more power than the one signing. An example here would be like the sole internet provider in your city asking you to sign a waiver. You're screwed if you don't sign it because you need internet, so they have more power.
But at McKamey Manor, customers could just go to a different haunted house or no haunted house at all. So no real problem so far. Second, how clear is the waiver? Do customers really know what they're getting into? Well, the waiver is a whopping 40 pages and it covers a lot.
Saying stuff like you consent to having your head and eyebrows shaved, being put in a 55-gallon drum and rolled into a pond, being buried in a pit with mice and rodents, and possible electrocution.
So I'd say that this is pretty clear.
That takes us to number 3, the most questionable factor here.
Public policy just means what's good for society. And courts have pretty strongly determined that it's not good for society for people to agree to being seriously injured or killed. Now, there are, of course, exceptions. Like, for instance, you can consent to a doctor amputating your leg. And boxers can consent to being beat up in the ring. Ultimately, it's up to a court to look at a specific waiver and determine if society should allow it or not.
No one has successfully sued McKamey Manor. There's some debate if the whole thing's real or just some elaborate ruse. So we can't know for sure about this waiver unless someone brings it to court.
As two Harvard lawyers who also happen to be married for a typical day. I start my day at 6 a.m. while Macklin keeps sleeping. In his defense, although he deserves none, he stays up way later than me. I get ready to go to the gym but make the fatal error of checking my email first and realize I've gotten literally dozens of emails overnight at my big law corporate job, so I abandon that idea and get changed. I take a few more minutes to make myself some tea and then hop on my 4-second commute to my desk, which is about the time that
I wake up, and the first thing I do is put on clothes so the construction workers outside my window don't get a free show because that should cost money. Before leaving the house, I want to say bye to Ashley, but she's already on the phone, so I offer a listless wave that gets lost somewhere in the ether. Then I hop in the car and drive to my favorite spot and grab one of genuinely the world's best donuts and find a place to work at a nice little coffee shop. Fortunately for me, because I run my own law firm, I get to work pretty much anywhere I want. After an hour of responding to emails, checking if my book has sold 1 million copies yet, and doing some research on a procedural legal issue that makes absolutely zero sense, I decide to head back home. Soon, I get hungry for real breakfast. Ashley says she doesn't want any, but I'm pretty sure she's only had a spoonful of almond butter this entire morning, so I make her some anyway.
I eat Macklin's stupid fucking eggs while I review an insane credit agreement markup that I genuinely can't believe opposing counsel served up with a straight face. Until Macklin asked me to get up so he can use me as warm-up weights before the gym. Kind of like a roller coaster, so I accepted.
Light day at the gym, still recovering, but I try to do what work I can on my phone and actually take some time to think of TikTok ideas.
While he's at the gym, I realize I'm still hungry and manage to get up for another quick snack, but just end up contemplating my entire existence.
When I get back, Ashley's still at her desk. There's a gigantic mess on the floor. I shower because I have 2 client Zoom meetings back to back. When those are over, I see that Ashley has finally completed her metamorphosis into a pile of human sludge. It's only noon, record time today. I try to cheer her up by showing her my 3 Ivy League diplomas, which is what always makes me feel better, but it never seems to work for her. Sensing that she needs her space, I play with a golf simulator for a few minutes and start wondering if being 6'9" is too tall for the PGA Tour. When I'm done, I work on an article for Psych Today I'm writing and catch up on all our social media stuff. I grab my second and last, because my blood pressure can't handle it, coffee for the day. And maybe a little snack. It's a smoothie kind of day. Caffeinated and satiated, we finish our Zoom, and let me say, Ashley really shined. But when that's done, back to the boring stuff. I start dealing with some client billing, accounting, and insurance issues, stuff that I have to do myself because as a solo practitioner, I'm the only one here. Ashley's so lucky that she works for a huge law firm and has people who can do that stuff for her. Do you know juries are overwhelmingly an American thing?
Most countries don't use them, and some estimates suggest that over 90% of all jury trials in the world take place in the US. So if they don't use juries, what do they use? They have bench trials, which is just a fancy way of saying the judge handles the whole case. Typically, low-level cases have one judge, and a high-level case has a panel of judges.
Countries that use a bench trial basically think like this guy.
So you're telling me there's a guy who did a crime, and you need me to show up so you can convince me whether or not he did it? I didn't go to law school. Who gives a fuck what I think?
They think that untrained non-lawyers shouldn't be deciding legal issues.
Bias is also an issue. Although the American jury selection process tries to weed out jurors with prior knowledge or bias about a particular case, this is increasingly difficult as our nation grows more divisive and social media gives everyone, everywhere opinions about everything.
One of the reasons South Africa abolished its jury system is that racial tensions throughout the country made it almost impossible to find fair juries. But supporters of the jury system still say it's the best option we have, even if not perfect. After all, what if the judges at your bench trial are biased?
The jury system was designed to be the buffer between you and the government, and the founding fathers thought that juries were necessary to prevent tyranny. Overall, it's a super complex issue, so what do you think?
Actually, what you think doesn't matter at all.
But you didn't have to be such a dick about it.
Because the right to a jury is enshrined in the Constitution.
While it's possible that this could be changed with a constitutional amendment, those are exceedingly rare and absolutely never ever going to happen for this kind of thing. Shooter in Maine has killed at least 18 people. Authorities say it was this guy, who is a member of the Army Reserve, and who is actually committed to a mental institution this summer after his Army commanders became concerned about him.
He told them he was hearing voices inside his head and wanted to shoot up the Army base. Spent 2 weeks in the mental facility and then was released. So everyone's asking, how the hell did this guy possibly have a gun? Particularly what appears to be an AR-15.
This was a true tragedy and a shock for the state of Maine, which has the lowest rate of violent crime in the nation, despite having very relaxed gun laws.
This might sound surprising, but neither federal nor Maine law automatically takes your guns away if you spend time in a mental institution. It all depends if you're officially committed or not.
It's a confusing definition, but committed generally means that a court has formally ruled that you're a danger to yourself or others. Under Maine's yellow flag law, a medical professional has to rule that you're a risk, and a court has to officially agree. Only then can police temporarily confiscate your weapons.
But spending time in a mental institution doesn't automatically mean that a court has ruled that you're a risk. For example, you might just voluntarily agree to stay in the institution, and a court probably won't get involved at all, meaning no one will take your guns away.
But in Maine, none of this actually matters.
Not in the real world, at least. Here's why. In Maine, you can buy a firearm from a private seller without any kind of background check, even AR-15s.
Meaning it doesn't really matter if someone's been declared a risk by a court or committed or whatever. Even in cases where they aren't legally allowed to have a gun, there's no real way to stop them from getting one if there's no background check.
Sure, it'd technically be illegal for them to buy it, but that doesn't really matter if they're about to kill a bunch of people.